Know the causes of sickness and health. In context, before 4th to 6th century CE, the world's first medical center develops at Gondeshapur under the patronage of Sasanian kings from Shapur I. 627. The first mobile hospital is a tent for the Muslim wounded set up during the Ghazwa Kandak, Battle of the Ditch. Circa 770. Caliph al-Mansur founds the Beit al-Hikmah, where many ancient medical texts are translated into Arabic. After 12th to 13th century, in Spain, the first Latin translation of Ibn Sin's Al-Kamfi al-Tib, the Canon of Medicine, appears. 1362. After the Black Death ravages Europe, Ibn al-Khatib of Granada writes a treatise on contagious infections. 1697, Ibn Sina's canon is still on the curriculum in the medical school in Padua, Italy. The fall of the Western Roman Empire in the late 5th century AD led to a steep decline in the level of medical knowledge and practice in Europe. But Hellenistic culture had survived in the empire's eastern provinces, conquered by the armies of a new religion, Islam, in the 7th century. There, the medical theories from ancient Greece and ancient Rome were transmitted to early Islamic physicians by Nestorian Christians who worked in the medical center in Gondeshapur in Iran under the Persian Sasanian emperors. This interest continued under the Islamic caliphs, particularly the Abbasids, whose capital, Baghdad, founded in 762, became a vibrant economic, cultural, and scientific center. In the late 8th century, Caliph al-Mansur had established a Beit al-Hikmah, or House of Wisdom, which became a base for the translation of ancient texts into Arabic. Men such as Ibn Ishaq, 808 to 873, the court physician who translated the works of Hippocrates and Galen, assured that Islamic physicians had access to the medical theories of the Greek and Roman world. A new era of Islamic medicine developed, fueled by luminaries such as Al-Razi, 854 to 925, and Ibn Sina, 980 to 1037, known in the West as Razis and Avicenna, respectively. Truth in medicine is an unattainable goal, and the art, as described in books, is far beneath the knowledge of an experienced and thoughtful physician. Al-Razi. Early Islamic hospitals. From the start, Islamic medicine embraced the practicalities of treatment as well as medical theory. In the 7th century, Islam's first mobile hospital had treated battlefield injuries, and the academy at Gondeshapur had become a renowned center of medical treatment and learning. Islam's first documented general hospital, or Vaismaristan, Persian for place of the sick, was founded around 805 by Caliph al-Rashid in Baghdad and quickly achieved fame. Within a century, another 5 had been built and more were later established around the Middle East. Medical schools had close links to such hospitals, and students could observe patients being treated by qualified doctors. Some hospitals had separate wards for infectious diseases, gastrointestinal problems, eye ailments, and mental illness. As a result of such first-hand clinical experience, early Islamic physicians made important advances in identifying disorders and devising effective cures. Clinical expertise. In the 9th century, Al-Razi, the chief physician to the Caliph in Baghdad, wrote more than 200 texts and commentaries developing the principles of earlier Greek, Roman, Syrian, Islamic, and Indian medical theorists. He emphasized the need to develop diagnosis by examining patients and interviewing them, and to administer treatments based on past experience of their efficacy. In his Kitab al-Hawi al-Tib, the comprehensive book of medicine, he recorded the symptoms of a huge range of diseases and became one of the first doctors to distinguish between smallpox and measles, which doctors had previously considered to be the same infection. Insistence on close observation also led him to identify gout as a single condition and not a variety, as the Greeks had supposed, and he concluded from his clinical experience that many diseases did not follow the course that Galen, the great Roman physician, had suggested. Among Al-Razi's many insights were his views on mental illness and the connection between mind and body. He championed the idea that mental disorders should be treated in the same way as physical diseases and prescribed therapies involving diet, medicines, and even music and aromatherapy. He also urged that patients should be encouraged to believe in the possibility of improvement and the efficacy of treatment, as this was likely to produce better outcomes. The physician must always make the patient believe that he will recover, for the state of the body is linked to the state of the mind. Kitab al-Hawi fi al-Tib, circa 900. Licensed to practice, Al-Razi was revered as not only a model practitioner, but also as a teacher. Not everyone matched his high standards, however, and in 931, Caliph al-Muqtadir ordered the licensing of all physicians when he heard that an error had caused the patient's death. When medical students passed their examinations, they took the Hippocratic Oath and received a license from a Mutasib, Inspector General. A great medical manual. The idea that medicine should be based on a comprehensive system of observation, experimentation, and testing in order to establish diagnosis and devise the best treatment reached its most developed form in the work of Ibn Sina. His Canon of Medicine, published around 1012, gathered knowledge from Greek, Roman, Persian, and Arabic works and combined it with his own clinical observations to create the most comprehensive medical manual of the medieval era. In the 12th century, it was translated into Latin and became an essential part of the training for medical students in Europe for around 4 centuries. The canon ran to more than 1 million words in 5 volumes. The first book dealt with the origins of diseases, drawing much from the Hippocratic and Galenic theory of humors. Ibn Sina classified the possible causes of disease, both in extrinsic, such as the climate of the region, and intrinsic, such as whether the patient has excessive sleep, rest, or excessive movement or activity, alongside other causes such as the habits and the constitution of the person. Ibn Sina believed that the 4 humors interacted with the elements, earth, air, fire, and water, and the patient's anatomy to cause disease. An excess of moisture, for example, might cause tiredness or digestive disorders, while elevated heat can induce thirst or a racing pulse. Like Galen and Hippocrates, he considered that direct observation of a patient could determine which factor was out of balance. It has both a theoretical and a practical side of Ibn Sina. Drugs, diseases, and cures. The second book of the Qanun cataloged about 800 remedies and medicines from plant, animal, and mineral sources, together with the diseases they could treat most effectively. Ibn Sina drew from Indian and Greek authorities, then offered his own opinions of the efficacy of remedies, their differing strengths, and certain variations in recipes from different sources. With advice partly taken from Galen, Ibn Sina also set down 7 rules for experimenting with new drugs. He cautioned that medicine should not be exposed to excessive heat or cold, and that a drug should be tested on a patient who suffered from one rather than multiple conditions and given only in small doses at first to observe the effect. In the 3rd and 4th books, Ibn Sina covers disorders of specific parts of the body from head to toe, including tuberculosis affecting the lungs, correctly identified as contagious, and cataracts of the eye, and those that affect the whole body or several different parts, such as fevers, ulcers, fractures, and skin conditions. The 5th and final book describes a number of complex preparations and treatments and a collection of preventative measures, including diet and exercise. Ibn Sina's recognition that prevention is better than cure set him several centuries ahead of medieval European physicians, built on earlier advances. Before Ibn Sina, a constellation of Islamic physicians had contributed to the advancement of medical science. In the late 8th century, Jabir ibn Hayyan, known in Europe as Jibir, who was the court physician to Caliph al-Rashid, formalized the study of pharmacology. Although many of the 500 works attributed to him were probably written by his later followers, Jabir himself brought experimental rigor to the traditional practice of alchemy, which sought to transform one substance into another, notably base metals into gold. A brilliant chemist, he cataloged key processes such as crystallization and evaporation and invented the alembic, a jar used for distillation. Jabir's work gave pharmacists of his time the tools to develop new drugs. Other notable precursors to Ibn Sina include Al-Tabari, a 9th century Persian physician who taught al-Razi and wrote the 7-part Firdus al-Hikmah, Paradise of Wisdom, one of the earliest encyclopedias of Islamic medicine. Al-Tamimi, a 10th century physician in Cairo, Egypt, was renowned for his extensive knowledge of medical herbs. For his guide to nutrition, plants, and minerals, Al-Murshid, and for an antidote for snake bites so successful that he called it Diryak al-Farouk, the cure of salvation. In Cordoba, Spain, Andalusian court physician in the medieval era's greatest surgeon, Al-Zahrawi, compiled the 30-part Kitab al-Tazrif, the methods of medicine in the late 10th century. It included a surgical treatise outlining many sophisticated techniques, such as the removal of bladder stones, the excision of cancerous tumors from breasts, as well as gynecological operations and an early form of plastic surgery to mitigate damage caused by wounds. If the physician is able to treat with nutrients and not medication, then he has succeeded. Kitab al-Hawifi al-Tib, circa 900. Lasting influence. A product of the Islamic Golden Age, Islamic medicine had a significant impact on Western Europe from the medieval until the 17th century, when new scientific ideas emerged during the Age of Enlightenment. Islamic medicine was advanced in many ways, with its emphasis on well-being, its insistence on observation of the patient as the basis for diagnosis, the keeping of detailed patient records, the inclusive nature of its hospitals that treated all members of society, the training of doctors, and the employment of female physicians and nurses. Its teaching lives on, especially in the Unani system of medicine practiced in Iran, Pakistan, and India. Ibn Sina. Born in 980 New Bukhara in present-day Uzbekistan, Ibn Sina, son of a government official, studied Islamic philosophy, relied on medicine. At 18, he successfully treated Nur ibn Mansur, Samanid Sultan of Bukhara, which gained him a position at court and access to the extensive royal library. The collapse of the Samanids in 999 forced Ibn Sina to flee, and he spent several years in Khorasan, a region covering parts of northeast Iran, Afghanistan, and Central Asia, before moving to Hamadan, a city in west-central Iran. There, he was court physician and vizier to the Buyid ruler Shams ad-Dawla. In 1022, Ibn Sina moved to Isfahan under the patronage of Persian prince Ala al-Dawla and completed his major works. He died in 1037 from the after effects of a slave adding excessive opium to one of his remedies.